Hey everyone, Zsolt here. Last year I attended the Linking Your Thinking conference and listened to Vicky Zhao's and Fei-Ling Cheng's presentation, The Compass of Zettelkasten, but I completely forgot about it. Until one of the participants in Cohort 4 of the Visual Thinking workshop reminded me, and I rewatched the conference recording as well as read Fei-Ling's article about it, and I said, wow, this is not only a great idea that I can use to work with my Zettelkasten system and my notes, but it is also a perfect example to demonstrate how you can use ExcaliBrain to visualize your thoughts, to visualize connections between your thoughts. So in today's video, I want to achieve two things. First of all, I want to walk you through the Compass of Zettelkasten, just show you what the idea is about and why I think it's so great. And second, I'm connecting this video with the release of an update to ExcaliBrain. I implemented a feature where you can now also place items on the east, on the right-hand side of your ExcaliBrain graph. And I want to show you the process of how I went through reconfiguring ExcaliBrain, how this new feature works, and just give you an understanding of how you can use ExcaliBrain to visualize these connections for yourself. So join me, and I hope this is going to be insightful. This is the video recording of Vicky's and Fei-Ling's presentation at the Linking Your Thinking conference. I'm going to include the link in the video description. And here is my visual summary of the idea compass. The heart of this idea is that you look in different imaginary directions. You look north, you look south, you look west, and you look east. And you ask different type of questions. You direct your attention to different type of questions. When you look north, then you look for the origins of the idea. You look for bigger categories or groups where the idea belongs to. You're looking for whatever exists an order of magnitude higher, where it was incepted, or what beliefs it supports, what are the parent domains. So you're looking up. When you're looking down, you're zooming in, and you're looking for ideas that this thought in the center contributes to, or domains that are children of this idea, ideas that this central idea nurtures, where it leads to instances, examples of this idea are down south. To the west, you have similar and supporting ideas. So here you're looking for other disciplines where the same concept could be applied. You're looking for others who have expressed a similar thought that are relevant or referenced. And then to the right-hand side, you're looking for ideas that compete with the central idea. Competition can be opposition, so these are opposing ideas or highlighting things that are missing from the central idea or that are disadvantage of this. But also competition means a transformation and supercharging. So also to the right, you're adding items that can supercharge and transform the central idea. So let's look at the ExcaliBrain view of this page and just try to show you how all this comes together. So here I have the idea compass in the center, and it belongs to the category of tools for thought and algorithms of thought. I also include the idea compass on a double bubble map, the Wardley map versus the compass framework. I'm going to show you that in just a second, because I think that is also a very useful tool in connection with the idea compass. On the left-hand side, you can see some similar ideas. Right now, this reminded me of the Wardley map by Simon Wardley, because the Wardley map also thinks about directions in a map-like format, very similar to the idea compass, but of course the mapping logic is different because the whole purpose is different. And also in Sönke Arendt's How to Take Smart Notes, there's this quote that the construction of oppositions is the most effective approach for generating new ideas. So I thought that this is also a similar topic that touches on this. And then what can supercharge this idea is creating a cheat sheet. I'm going to show you the cheat sheet in a second and why I think that can supercharge this. The cheat sheet includes a list of questions that you can use as a template when you're working on a document. And then in this case, I have nothing below this. I have only the compass icon, but that's not because it is part of this image, and that's why it's a subtopic of this in ExcaliBrain. Now, thinking about this, I now realize that there's another whole domain of ideas that are similar to this. So I want to add that idea here. Let me show you how I do that. I'm going to now open this document, the idea compass, because this is a drawing. I'm going to open this in a markdown view mode. So I'm going to open this as markdown. And here I'm going to add one more, because as I was talking about this right now, it suddenly occurred to me that Edward De Bono, for example, in the 6 Thinking Hats, is talking about a similar idea. So I'm going to add similar to, or touches on a similar topic. I'm going to use similar to, and this is going to be the Thinking Hats, the 6 Thinking Hats. And by doing this, so what did I do here? I typed double colon 3 times. That is the trigger for bringing up the Ontology suggester in ExcaliBrain. And here I started to type in the keyword, the Dataview field. So these are here, these names and then double columns. These are Dataview fields in Obsidian. I'm using these to describe the ontology of the links. The ontology of the links is simply the description of the various links. I'm not just simply adding 6 thinking hats, but I'm adding the reason why I think it is there. So it is there because it is similar to this idea. So the way it works is if I type the triple double colons, then I can start to mention, for example, choose from here analogous to, and then as I type, the various fields come up. If I want a directional item, so I want maybe an idea down south, then I can say that I'm looking for the children. So then it's double colon twice and then a C, and that is going to bring up only the children items. So here I have, for example, examples as a next level detail of ideas in the idea compass. But anyway, I added similar to the 6 thinking hats. If we look at ExcaliBrain, then here you will see that now the 6 thinking hats is also here on the map. What you can also see is here these small numbers indicate the number of items in that direction. So you can see that some of these are more rich in connections than others. Now, the 6 thinking hats is quite relevant in the sense that in the 6 thinking hats, Edward De Bono defines 6 mindsets or 6 type of questions that you should be asking, and he provides 6 colored hats to trigger that topic. The 6 thinking hats can be used in a group setting when each participant has a hat on their hat and they need to ask questions in that domain. it is very similar in this sense to the idea compass, because you're doing directed thinking. It's also interesting that now that we talk about Edward De Bono, that De Bono has lots of thinking tools that are about this directed thinking. So another thinking tool would be PMI, plus minus interesting. And the way De Bono explains these tools is it's not like you're randomly looking in different directions. So also in case of the idea compass, I bet if Edward De Bono was to explain this concept, then he would say that don't think of ideas and then look for the place where it belongs on the compass, but rather direct your thinking. First, think about north, think about the origins, and collect all your ideas in that direction, and then think about maybe south, and then west and east. It gives you a different mindset. It's like looking in one direction and looking for items in your mind, in your vault that fit there. It's not this random brainstorming and then organizing. You can use it that way as well. But again, I just want to highlight that De Bono's approach would be this directed thinking. And I personally believe that De Bono is right. It gives you a different mindset. It is much more intentional and much more rigorous that way. Now, how did I then come up with the ontology, and how did I organize it on this chart? So you can see here these green words. These are my different words from my ontology. Over the last 1.5 years since I've created and been using ExcaliBrain, every time I come across a new word or description, I add it to ExcaliBrain. So the way that works is, if I would, I'm again going to open this in Markdown view mode so I can show you this. If I would create a new Dataview field that I want to add to ExcaliBrain, so for example, I'm going to add target maybe as a new field, and the target would be a south, a downward item. The way I can add this easily to the ontology to be a children node, so a downward pointing item, is by adding simply target right here, and then with the Obsidian command palette, Control P, add this as a child. So here, if I would click on this, I don't want to add target at this time. If I would click on this, add Dataview field to ontology as child, then from then on, ExcaliBrain would recognize target as a downward child description. Now, if I open the ExcaliBrain plugin settings, then here you can see the section for the ontology, and you can see here the parent fields, the children fields, the left side friend fields, and this is where the new version of ExcaliBrain comes with more options, because now I also have the right side friends, and I also have the previous and the next friends. I'm going to show you in a second how the previous and next differs from left and right. In a nutshell, they are both on the side, so the previous is on the left, the next is on the right. Of course, if you change the words, then you can change this around by definition. But the difference is that the right-hand side friends always remain on the right-hand side, even if they switch places, while the next friends will move to the side. So let me show you how this works. If I open ExcaliBrain here, then you can see that on the right I have the Zettelkasten cheat sheet, which supercharges the idea compass. If I click on this, then the idea compass moves to the right because it is supercharged by the Zettelkasten cheat sheet. And this way it is always a transforming or supercharging type of relationship. That's why it will remain on the right hand side. Similarly, if I click here on Wardley Maps, then the idea compass is on the left hand side, because it again reminds me of similar type of relationship on the left hand side. So that's how the right hand side and left hand side lateral ideas or friends work. If we look at the next and previous relationship, then that is slightly different, and let me create a couple of documents to show you how that works. So now I'm going to create a completely brand new blank document here. I'm going to create a new empty document. I'm going to call this page 1, and I'm going to say that next is of course page 2, like this. And I'm going to create page 2, and here I'm going to just write that next is page 3. So that's all I wanted to create. I don't want to create too many unnecessary pages. And if now I open ExcaliBrain, then you will see here this relationship. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see it better. So here in the center I have page 2. If I go to page 3, then the previous page is page 2. It is to the left. If I click on page 2, then the previous page is to the left. It's page 1. The next page is page 3 to the right. If I click on page 1, then the next page is page 2, and this is in the center. So this is the way next and previous works, that it is a relative position compared to one page to the other. So it's a directed relationship, while in case of the idea compass, it works, or in case of the left and right items, it works differently. So how did I organize my ontology to fit these different categories? I did a very simple activity. So over time, I collected all these different data view fields in my documents, and I added them to the ontology. I wasn't so deliberate. It was more feeling based. This is what I love about wikis and failings idea, that this gives a good structure for thinking about the directions in ExcaliBrain. So I copied all of these into a long text list, and then I started to go through this list of different ontology items, and I grouped them into, or grouped them under these questions. And once I was done, I again compiled the comma separated list, and I added it back here, and with that I created the ontology describing the different directions. And in a nutshell, this is the idea. Let me just finally show you around a little bit of how I processed this idea right here. Again, if I open ExcaliBrain, that, as I mentioned, the Wardley map reminds me of the idea compass. Sometimes it's good to document for yourself what's the similarity. So in this case, you can see that I have the Wardley map versus the compass framework here, which is apparent because it compares two ideas for me. That's to the north. It compares Wardley maps with the idea compass. If I open this right here is a double bubble map. The way a double bubble map works is you take two ideas, in this case Wardley maps and the idea compass, you place them in two different parts of your drawing, and then in the center you're adding features or properties that are similar, and then on the side you're adding properties that are different for the two. So in this case you can see that both the Wardley map and the idea compass are a map of a concept where directions matter or directions count. They are both in a way tools for thought, and they are both to some extent a business analysis technique, a way of asking questions. The Wardley map is used for defining strategy, while the idea compass is used for comparing concepts and ideas. The directions mean different, so I already explained the idea compass, where north is the source and the origin, south is where the idea leads to the subdomain, west are supporting ideas, and east are contradicting or competing ideas. In case of Wardley map, the direction is slightly different because north is the customer, south are the underpinning capabilities or services, west are the emerging services, and east are the commodity services, and that's the layout logic of a Wardley map. And the Wardley map is actually drawn visually as a map, so there are lines and directions and things matter in a mapping site kind of sense. The idea compass is not such a visual map. Now with ExcaliBrain it is visual, it is more of a mental model. And I think this sort of summary for all the connections that you have on the left hand side, so if you have similar two relationships like you have here, these two ideas that are similar to one another, these are a good way of representing or comparing these ideas. So in this case, because I have this reminds me of relationship, creating that comparison is useful. After the video, I'm going to create my double bubble map to compare the idea compass to the 6 thinking hats, and I'm going to probably move on here because here with the 6 thinking hats, so this is, you can see this is an import from the brain. This is a pretty old document in my vault. I miss lots of things, so this is actually an example of or an instance of a tool for thought, etc. So I'm going to fill out this page with those details because this just brought the 6 thinking hats back into my memory, and I'm going to now work on that. So that's all I wanted to share with you today. In summary, we looked at 2 things. We looked at the framework of the idea compass, which is a tool for thought that helps you connect your new idea to ideas that already exist in your Obsidian vault. It works by directing your attention to north, south, west, and east and asking different questions. And then we looked at ExcaliBrain as a way to visualize these connections and to bring all of this alive. And we talked about how you can define your ontology in ExcaliBrain, how you can use the compass framework to define what's up, what's down, what's left, and what's right. And finally, we looked at an example of the double bubble map, because in the idea compass, I identified 2 thoughts, Wardley Maps and the compass framework, as similar ideas. So I created a double bubble map to compare the 2. What are similarities? What are differences? And how do these 2 ideas relate to one another? As a result of this video, I hope that you are going to install ExcaliBrain. You're going to give the idea compass a try and have fun with ExcaliDraw, have fun visualizing your ideas, and have fun experimenting with the idea compass and ExcaliBrain. Thank you for watching.